the moment of death is decided really the same way that everything else in our life is decided, which is based on our own karma. As we were speaking last night, all of that which I do is creating my destiny. And so the way that I die and the thoughts in my mind, the emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual state I am in at death plays a very large role in determining my next birth. And so therefore, it's going to be made up of all of the karma of this life. If I spend my life, if I take my buddhi, my intellect, if I take my blessings of having a divine guru, if I take the blessings of the grace that I've been given, and I throw them away and I decide I really just want to spend my life in a dance club and, drink a lot of alcohol and take a lot of drugs and gamble away my money and, those actions, those decisions are creating karmic fruit. The way I die, the actual way I die, as well as the framework in my mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual well-being, is going to be determined by the choices I make. So how I die, when I die, what is on my mind and in my heart when I die, therefore determining my next birth, is going to be very different if I spend this life in a dance club, drunk and drugged and, gambling away and engaged in, promiscuous sex and things that are meaningless, than if I spend my life engaged in meditation and prayer and service, purifying my mind and my intellect. And those, of course, are the two kind of opposite ends of a spectrum, and there's a whole spectrum in between. But the choices that I make every day in my life determine the next moments of my life, the next moments of my life, then the next moments of my life, and ultimately that determines how I die, and therefore my next birth. So how we live is going to be how you die. So if you're worried about how you're going to die, worry about how you're living, because that's going to be how you die. You can't suddenly become someone different on your deathbed. All of the sanskaras, in fact, usually the patterns of our life just get stronger and stronger as we get closer to death. So if you were a deeply spiritual person, deeply surrendered person, deeply pure person, that tends to be how the last few years or months or moments of your life are, depending on whether it's a prolonged passing or an immediate one. But if your life was spent engaged in fear, in judgment and expectation, in desire, in separateness and negativity, well, that's exactly how you're going to die. It stays with us. My grandmother, I remember, was a brilliant woman, but had a control issue. She was deeply, deeply afraid of ever letting go of any kind of control in her life. And when she was in the hospital, just before she died, they had her, she was going in for some kind of emergency surgery. She was already in the hospital, and then something happened, and they were wheeling her into surgery. And somehow she caught a glimpse of the file, her medical file that was in the pocket on her bed that was being wheeled into surgery. And she noticed that in America, like we have Aadhaar cards here with an identity number. In America, everyone has something called a social security number, and it's like your identification number, and it's 10 digits. And she noticed, as she's being wheeled into surgery at the end of her life, that one digit of her 10-digit social security number was wrong, stops the nurses, stops the doctors, will not let them move that bed into surgery until they fix the social security number on the file. Now, we could think, wait, isn't it more important to fix whatever it is that the emergency is happening and like let them deal with the social security number later on? Doesn't matter what the number is. What matters is the body that needs the operation. But the point being that if for the first 84 years of her life, she wasn't able to let go, there was no way in the 85th year in a hospital she was going to be able to let it go, and made them fix the number. So how we live gets more and more crystallized as we get older, sadly, because a lot of us are great procrastinators. And just as we think, oh, starting Monday, I'm going to get up and meditate. Starting on the new year, starting on my birthday, starting on some other auspicious day, I'm going to stop getting angry about stupid things. I'm going to stop living in my past. I'm going to stop going up and down based on everything around me. I'm going to stop wasting time on who's saying what, who's doing what. I'm going to really dedicate myself spiritually. We think on some auspicious occasion we're going to start that. But that auspicious occasion, we keep postponing it. Because we're great procrastinators. And we keep thinking, oh, I've got lots of time. Lots of time. There's a great story of this young guy who lives with the guru in a gurukul. And when he's early 20s or so, he says to the guru, Guruji, I know my life is meant to be here, my life is meant to be a spiritual life, but I just feel like I'm afraid that someday I'm going to regret that I never experienced the things of the world. Give me just 5 years. Let me go out. I've lived my whole childhood here. I've never dated. I've never been to a shopping mall. I've never been to the movies. I've never done any of these things. Before I take my final vows, give me 5 years to just go out and experience. So the guru says, take 10 years. 5 years mein kuch nahi hota. By the time you find someone and this at your age, 5 years is nothing. Take 10 years. Guy says, I won't even need 10 years. But okay. So 10 years later, the man is married. They have kids. There's a knock on the door one day, and the young child goes and answers the door, and there's this sadhu standing on the doorway, and he says to the child, "Is your dad home?" Child calls for the dad. The dad goes to the door, immediately recognizes the sadhu as his guru. And the guru says, 10 years over. You got the job, you've made a bunch of money, you got married, you've had kids. Are you now ready? So the man says, "Oh, Guruji, I can't now. My kids, they are so young. We just bought this house. The mortgage payments are very high. How will my wife manage? Give me just another 10 years. Let the kids grow. Let me get enough money in the bank that my wife is okay." The Guru says, "No problem. God bless you." Goes away. 10 years later, the Guru comes back. The kids are now teenagers. He knocks, and as the teenage kids open the door, with them is a dog. And immediately the Guru recognizes in the dog was his disciple, who had met with an accident, had died, had been reborn as this dog. He says to the kids, "Let me spend a few minutes with your dog for a little while." So they don't know who the guy is, but they think, all right, this old man wants to pet our dog for a little while. Okay. So the Guru says to the dog, "Are you ready now? Look what's happened to you. You were so worried about protecting them that when you met with this accident, you were reborn as this watchdog." And the dog says, "Oh, I can't come now." He says, "Now because there's so much money. Everybody is after them. So many enemies. So many people trying to steal. So many people after my wife. She's still very beautiful. I have to be here and protect them." The Guru says, "Tika, blessings," goes away. 10 years later, he comes back. The children now have married and have kids of their own. And the door again is answered by little kids. And the Guru closes his eyes and he sees with the mind's eye. And he says to these little kids, "Upstairs, there is a safe." The kid says, "Yes, where mommy and daddy put all their important things." And the Guru says, "In the wall next to the safe, there is a hole in the rocks." And the kids look at him like, "Okay, maybe." And the Guru says, "You go up there, in that hole, a snake lives. Make your dad come with you there. Don't go alone. Bring me that snake. Don't kill it. Whatever you do, don't kill it. But just break its back enough so it can't hurt you. And bring it to me." So the kids are very confused. Who's this old man standing on their doorstep who knows they have a safe, who now is talking about a snake living in the wall? But they're very intrigued. They get their dad. They go up. Lo and behold, in the wall, in the hole, there's a snake. They break it. They get it in a bag. They bring it to the old man. The old man takes the snake in the bag, blesses them. Walks away, takes the snake, throws it over his shoulder as he walks away, and he says, "Enough now. There is no end. Now you have come back as this snake to protect the money in the safe in the wall. There is no end. I've now come to save you." And I love this story because it's a very poignant story about the way that our minds work, where we think, "Oh, I've got lots of time, just one more, just one more. Just another night doing this, just another year, just let me." And the universe is infinitely patient. We get to keep coming back over and over again until we learn. But that's why that moment of death is determined by how we live. If you think, well, when the boy was young, living in the Gurukul, his moment of death in that accident that made him reborn as the watchdog was determined by the choices that he made. As he left, as he got stuck in Maya, all of that. Then the moment of death of the dog that was reborn as the snake was determined by it. So how we live determines how we die. When we die. Who we are when we die. Therefore, who we are when we come back. If we come back. So that's why we say, take care of how you live. That's why this is what all of the scriptures say, all of the saints and the sages and the gurus who have given us this wisdom. That's why no one says, oh yeah, no problem. You can make it all up in the last week of your life. No problem. Eat, drink, and be merry, but just make sure that last week in your deathbed. They don't say that. Because that last week is determined by every other week up to